Greetings to each and every one of you. My name is Paul-André Durocher. I'm the Archbishop of Gatineau, and this is Advent Readings, a series of explorations of the biblical texts proposed for the Liturgy of the Mass, weekday Mass during the Advent season. And today we are Tuesday, December 22nd, 2020. Only 3 days left till Christmas. And we continue with our reading of Luke's Gospel, the first chapter. And the first reading today is from the first book of Samuel, and you will see the connection between this text of Samuel and the Gospel that we're going to read. So let's start with 1 Samuel 1:24 to 28. And it tells the story of Hannah, the wife of Elkanah, a woman who has not been able to give birth to children yet, who's been at the sanctuary of Shiloh. Shiloh was where the Ark of the Covenant was kept before Jerusalem was built. So this is before the time of David or of Saul. Actually, the child of Hannah will be Samuel, the prophet who will anoint Saul and then David. So we're very close to the time of the beginning of the kings. But at this point, Jerusalem is not yet the capital. The temple is certainly not built. So you could say what acts as a capital for the 12 tribes is at Shiloh in the center in Samaria, what was called Samaria in the time of Jesus. And at Shiloh, there is a priest who's in charge of caring for the tent of the covenant, the Ark of the Covenant, the priest Eli. Hannah had been to offer sacrifices with her husband, and she had prayed for the gift of a child. And she had prayed to God that if you give me a child, I will consecrate him to you. You know, he will be yours. And eventually, this is what happened. And so the child was left at the temple where he was raised by Eli as a servant of the priest Eli, and eventually discovered his vocation as a prophet. As a child, he gets called by God. And Hannah will be blessed with other children afterwards. The priest Eli will say, since you've given your eldest to the sanctuary, may God give you other children. And she will have other children. So all in all, it's a story with a happy ending for Hannah. So Samuel is born in response to her prayer. And we read that when Hannah, this is where the reading picks up, when Hannah had weaned her son Samuel, she took him up with her, along with a 3-year-old bull, a measure of flour, and a skin of wine. She brought him to the house of the Lord at Shiloh, and the child was young. Then they slaughtered the bull, and they brought the child to Eli. So they offer up a sacrifice of thanksgiving to God, and then she brings the child to Eli. And Hannah said to Eli, "O my Lord, as you live, my Lord, I am the woman who was standing here in your presence, praying to the Lord. For this child I prayed, and the Lord has granted me the petition that I made to him. Therefore I have lent this child to the Lord. As long as he lives, he is given to the Lord." And Hannah left Samuel there for the Lord. And this is the beginning of the long cycle of Samuel, which is told in the first book of Samuel and the second book of Samuel. The point here is that Samuel is, you could say, a gift from God to this woman in response to her prayer for a child. And I'm going to read the psalm today because actually the psalm is a psalm not from the book of Psalms, but from the book of Samuel. And this psalm follows immediately on the text we've just read and is put in the mouth of Hannah. It's presented as a prayer that Hannah says as she presents her son to the priest Eli for his service. And let's listen to this psalm. My heart exults in the Lord. My strength is exalted in my God. My mouth derides my enemies because I rejoice in my victory. Now, right away, we see that this this psalm really isn't appropriate, you could say, in the mouth of Hannah, because here she's speaking about a victory over her enemies. It's more the psalm of a king, you could say, and it resembles the psalms that are obviously put in the mouths of kings. But we will see how it applies to her. The bows of the mighty are broken, but the feeble gird on strength. Those who are full have hired themselves out for bread, but those who are hungry are fat with spoil. The barren has borne 7, but she who has many children is forlorn. So you see here the reversal. What this psalm is praising is the reversal. God comes and he reverses the fortunes of those who are attached to him. And those who were broken are lifted up. Those who were hungry are now fat with spoil. And those who were barren are now bearing 7 children, a perfection of children. So obviously this applies to her situation. She was barren, and now she's lifted up because she has a child. The Lord kills and brings to life. Now we have to understand at that time that God controlled everything that happened. So if people died, it was God that decided. If people were brought to life, it was God that decided. So here in this case, we rejoice because God has brought up this child. God brings down to Sheol, to the home of the dead, and he raises up to life. The Lord makes poor and makes rich. He brings low. He also exalts. He raises up the poor from the dust, and he lifts the needy from the ash heap to make them sit with princes and inherit a seat of honor. So the Lord lifts up really the lowly, the needy, and the poor. We will hear echoes of this kind of thought in the prophecies of people like Isaiah, and the prophecies of Jeremiah and Zephaniah, that as we're coming to the exile, and in the midst of the exile, that God will lift up the lowly. His own people who have been brought down so low will be lifted up, and it will be the Messiah who will do this, lift up the lowly people from their depths. Well, now we come to Luke. Luke's Gospel, chapter 1, verses 46 to 56. And we saw yesterday how Mary set out to visit Elizabeth, who is one of these women who is infertile, and God gave her a child in response to this prayer. So we see that this connects with the Old Testament. And as I've been saying all along, these first 2 chapters of Luke, they are transition chapters between the Jewish scriptures and the newness that is coming in Jesus. So Mary is with Elizabeth, and after hearing the greeting of Elizabeth, actually the blessing, the double blessing, she's blessed because she's the mother of the Messiah, and blessed because she has believed in the words that God has spoken to her through the angel. Mary responds, "My soul magnifies the Lord, and my spirit rejoices in God my Savior, for he has looked with favor on the lowliness of his servant." And right away we hear an echo of the canticle of Hannah. And Luke obviously is patterning his remembrance of this canticle of Mary on Hannah. And the way that Hannah speaks about the poor being lifted up, Mary's going to speak about this. So we see the roots of this canticle of Mary in the Jewish scriptures. A word about this. He has looked with favor on the lowliness of his servant. The word servant, sometimes old texts say his handmaiden. The word servant is really the feminine in Greek of the word slave. And the idea here is the lowliness of Mary, but also the fact the early Christians, and if we speak about this being a transition, a lot of the early Christians came from that class of people, the class of slaves, the caste of people who had no public standing, and they were worshiping a crucified criminal. The gentle and rich classes of ancient Greece must have been shocked at this. And let's remember that Luke is writing for them. But he's showing Mary right away as kind of being one with this category of people who have no status, who have no claim to anything. They are slaves. This is the word that Mary uses. God has looked with favor on the lowliness of his slave. Surely, from now on, all generations will call me blessed. Not just Elizabeth, but she's saying all generations, because what God is doing with her is going to this good work of God, because it's linked to the Messiah, to the coming of the Son of God, is going to echo through the centuries. From now on, all generations will call me blessed, for the Mighty One has done great things for me, and holy is his name. And here we start hearing echoes, or not echoes, but foreshadowings of Jesus's teachings. Because what will Jesus be? Jesus will teach us to pray, Our Father, who art in heaven, hallowed, holy be your name. Holy be your name. That's what hallowed be thy name. Holy be your name. May your name be held as holy. And here Mary is saying that. He's done great things for me, and holy is his name. Already we're seeing Mary as the pattern of discipleship, calling on God and praising him because God's name is holy. And then she goes on, God's mercy is for those who fear him from generation to generation. He has shown strength with his arm. He has scattered the proud in the thoughts of their hearts. He has brought down the powerful from their thrones and lifted up the lowly. He has filled the hungry with good things and sent the rich away empty. And again, the echoes of Hannah's canticle, the links with the Old Testament, the Psalms of the Old Testament, but the links with the teaching of Jesus. We hear, as we listen to this, if we know the gospel stories, particularly Luke's story, we hear Jesus saying, blessed are the poor, blessed are the hungry. And this is what what Mary is saying. She's saying he's lifted up the poor and he's filled the hungry with good things. In Luke's gospel, contrary to Matthew's gospel, Luke goes on and he says, and cursed are the rich and cursed are those who are filled. This is a complete reversal of fortune. And in this, Jesus is basically taking the message of the prophets and making it his own, saying God has come for a reversal of situations to restore my poor, downtrodden people Israel, and through them all the poor and the downtrodden of this world. I can't help in listening to this, but think that how can we as Christians feel that we are fulfilling the vision of Jesus if we are not involved in lifting up the lowly and feeding the poor and changing a social order which is keeping the poor people down and the rich in their haughty palaces? What Jesus is talking about, what Mary is praising, what Jesus is talking about, really is a new way of relating to each other in this world already. Obviously, it will be fulfilled, beyond our deaths, beyond the fulfillment on the last days. But already this is what God is calling us to do. The Lord, Mary continues, has helped his servant Israel in remembrance of his mercy, according to the promise he made to our ancestors, to Abraham and his descendants forever. So again, the flashback to Abraham and to all his descendants, this promise that has been made in the past is now being fulfilled in the coming of Jesus among us. Mary remained with Elizabeth about 3 months, then returned to her home. I kind of smile because when you read this, it's the radicalness of the gospel that strikes us. And often we think of Mary, we forget this radical prophetic side to her prayer. And we tend to kind of water down the radical prophetic side of Jesus as a prophet. And in that, there's a great continuity with the radicalness of Isaiah. Isaiah, Mary, Jesus. And this is what the church should be now, today. I was just reading that Pope Francis yesterday in a speech quoted the Archbishop, I've forgotten, Camara. It's terrible for me to forget names like this, from Brazil, who once said, he was attacked because of the fact that he was communist. And he said this, he says, when I try to feed the hungry, I'm called Christian. But when I try to change things so that there are no more hungry people, I'm called a communist. And the Pope quotes Don Helder Camera, saying these words. To take up the gospel message is really to commit ourselves to a new way of relating to each other, so that there are no poor, downtrodden left behind. Let's recommit ourselves to that and realize that the child whose birth we are celebrating is going to give his life to this vision that we call the kingdom of God among us. God bless. Till tomorrow.